Hello, good afternoon to everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the fourth Knowledge Exchange Workshop of the Biorural project. The focus of this workshop is the forestry and natural habitats. This session and all the sessions of this workshop will be recorded. The workshop will consist of 3 sessions, each one of them lasting about 1 hour and 15 minutes, in which one of these sessions we'll have 4 talks of 15 minutes each. At the end of the session, an additional period of 15 minutes for questions, answers, or discussion will be provided. The presentations of the first day will be focused on basic concepts and technical principles. This is the talk we'll have today. On the second day, the focus will shift to showcasing good practices. This is the title of the talks given tomorrow. On the last day, Thursday, we'll have the talks covering the cost-cutting themes. This workshop is jointly organized by the Latvia University of Life Sciences and Technologies and by the University of Coimbra. Thank you, Alexis, Una, and João for good co-working organizing this workshop. The Latvia University of Life Sciences and Technology is one of the leading universities of science and technology in the Baltic Sea region. It is specialized in sustainable use of natural research and is the only university with that specialization in Latvia. At the University of Coimbra, the research lab named for historical reasons Association for the Development of Industrial Aerodynamics is the institution involved in the organization of this workshop. The main research areas of ADAI are the sustainability of the built environment, the forest fires, the specific subject of energetic materials and detonics, the industrial ecology, and the energy systems. Within this last specific topic, we have a strong and fruitful collaboration with a company called Sivan, which is a spin-off of the University of Coimbra, for the development of small-scale biomass-fueled combined heat and power systems. Allow me to provide you a brief overview of the Biorural project. The title of the project is Accelerating Circular Bio-Based Solutions Integration in European rural areas. Biorural is a coordination support action type project. Its core idea is to facilitate the transition to knowledge, the transition of knowledge into technology, and then to disseminate this technology to end users to address their problems. The project involves 19 partners from 14 countries, which are grouped into 4 regional areas: Northwest, Southwest, and Northeast and Southeast. To achieve its goals, the project will evaluate the current state of the European bioeconomy, create a European rural bioeconomy network, assess and promote bio-based solutions in rural areas, facilitate knowledge exchange and capacity building as this workshop, identify factors affecting innovation adoption and diffusion of bio-based solutions, develop and optimize and maintain an online toolkit open to stakeholders. We call it the Biorural Toolkit, and create and develop blueprints for bioeconomy businesses, from the concept to scale. What can be found in the BioRural Toolkit? We can find fact sheets on the rural bioeconomy current state. We can select, we can also find selected relevant scientific work, commercial bio-based solutions, and funding opportunities, success stories with audio-visual material, recordings of knowledge exchange workshops, rural development blueprints, opportunities for open discussions, and policy and research guidelines. For more information about the project and the toolkit, please follow the link provided at the end of the slide. Before I give the screen to the first speaker, I also would like to thank to the team of the University of Ljubljana, especially to Luca and Matej for all the support organizing these workshops. So, thank you for your attention in listening to me in this introduction, and now is the time to introduce you with the first speaker of today's session. Walter is a scientific assistant at the Latvia State Forest Research Institute, and he is a current PhD student in the field of forestry at Latvia University of Life Science and Technologies. The field of his research covers many aspects of forest ecosystems and tree adaptation, with main focus on old-growth forests, especially carbon accumulation in tree biomass and greenhouse gas emissions from soil and tree stems. Please, Walter, the screen is yours.
Yes, thank you. Is everything visible?
Yes. Yes, we are seeing your screen. We are not listening to you, Walter.
Walter, skaņa. Walter, tev nedzird.
So, shortly, an insight of forest ownership structure in Europe. The color in the map represents the private forest owners in each country and within the country regions. And the darker the color, the more there are private forest owners at the country scale. And we can see that the forest ownership structure differs between the countries and even within the countries, and the situation in Europe is quite diverse. A similar situation is with the forest cover across Europe, and we can see that the highest forest cover at the EU level is in the Nordic and Baltic region, with the highest overall forest cover in Europe is in Finland and followed by Sweden. But on average at the EU level, the forest cover is something between 40 and 50% of total land area. On top of that, there are many EU forest-related policies that regulates the forest owner. And why do we even need to talk about this? Mainly because in most sectors we can hear about emission reduction or compensation to some extent, but forest sector is the only one that can ensure the greenhouse gas sequestration and carbon accumulation in living tree biomass, and also in soil and other carbon pools. Here is just an a slight insight of the annual CO2 removals by forest land and also the harvested wood products in EU on average, and we can see that annual CO2 removals by forest lands ensures a stable carbon sink with some fluctuations over the years. And also, as you can see, the harvested wood products are quite notable part of this sink. About future prognosis, climate and species distribution models indicate that till the end of this century, roughly 34% of forests in Central Europe will not be suitable for forestry. However, the Nordic and the Baltic region will be suitable for forestry and also responsible for carbon sequestration and wood products in Europe. Overall, the future prognosis of climate change impact on forests are related to productivity changes. For Nordic and the Baltic region, these changes are quite positive, and also it's projected that the three species ranges will shift. A map of Europe's forest protection and management using remote sensing data for the European forests. And overall, in Latvia, we're practicing multifunctional forest management, leading to small gap sizes, resulting in mosaic structure of forests, where the average size of the final harvest is between 1.9 or to 2 hectares. Balanced species composition in the forests with 45% of conifers dominated and 55% of broadleaf dominated forest stands. Also increasing proportion of mature and old stands even in areas where the final harvest is allowed. And also observed an increasing share of dead wood, which is on average 20 cubic meters per hectare in Latvia. However, EU average was around 11 cubic meters per hectare. Currently, we are moving towards the segregation of forest areas in Europe, an application of a triad approach with forest areas with different goals, and the selection of areas for each of the goals is crucial. And the triad approach includes land sharing and land sparing principles, promoting multiple use of forests and other ecosystem services. And on top of that, the EU biodiversity strategy makes the preservation of Europe's old growth forests one of its priorities. About the situation in Europe's forests and its resources, forest area has an increasing trend at the EU level, and at the same time there has been observed an increasing trend for growing stock in EU average and also in Latvia, where the forestry resources has increased in the past 7 decades. Forest area increased by roughly 37% and growing stock by 138%, while globally the forest area and growing stock is decreasing. Of course, there are limiting factors that can limit forest carbon stocks, and number one would be natural disturbances. I will not go in depth about natural disturbances, as you will hear more about disturbances in the next presentation. But shortly, the disturbances can release part of already stored carbon in forest ecosystems and initiate a new uptake. And one way to reduce the damage is to apply climate smart forest management to improve the resilience of existing stands to prevent the carbon loss. One of the carbon potentials in terms of climate change mitigation is mentioned area expansion, which has comparatively less potential for the Nordic and Baltic region due to already high forest cover, as you saw in the map in the beginning of the presentation. However, the typical approaches for maximizing carbon in the current forest area includes both storing carbon in living trees by either longer rotation periods to maximize the carbon storage or shorter rotation periods to maximize the CO2 sequestration. In terms of maximizing the carbon storage, old growth forest comes in mind, and in Europe there is quite limited information about old growth forest carbon stocks, and it is very fragmented. However, old growth forest carbon stocks and then carbon pools that do not have unlimited carbon potential, as meaning they cannot store the carbon forever, and the carbon accumulation potential, it's not the same throughout the whole rotation period or forest lifespan. But overall, in Latvia, we have gathered a significant amount of empirical data about old growth forests. In total, more than 188 old growth forests have been visited, with more than 1,000 sample plots placed, and the stand selection was based on the criteria that old trees are still the dominant forest element, where the average age of coniferous forests was 180 years. And for deciduous forests, it was 120 years, and also no signs or information about forest management in these stands for the past 40 years. Another limiting factor for forest carbon is specific ecosystems' potential to store carbon. And here's an excellent visualization of limitations in carbon stock in the forest ecosystems, meaning that old growth forests can reach the maximum carbon storage capacity. The green thick line represents the total biomass in forest ecosystems. We can see that there is an increasing trend, rapid increasing trend for first 100 years. However, later on, the carbon accumulation or biomass accumulation capacity slightly decreases. However, with increasing age, we can see that the disturbance risk gradually increases, meaning that the older the forest stand, the higher is the probability that natural disturbances or any disturbance will strike. To show this from Latvia's perspective or from our gathered data, we have compared old growth forests with 2 times younger stands and evaluated the annual carbon accumulation potential in biomass. And we can conclude that older stands have reduced carbon accumulation capacity compared to younger stands, and it varies between the 3 species, with the most distinct differences observed in Norway spruce stands, where the carbon accumulation capacity has decreased by 45% compared to 2 times younger stands. And another limiting factor for forest carbon is forest management. And here is a visualization of climate change mitigation potential or forest management-based climate change mitigation potential, and it is divided in 4 big groups, which would be forest protection, forest management, forest restoration, and wood use. And each of these groups has its own potential to store carbon and mitigate the climate change. And some practical examples of why doing nothing in forests is not always the best option to choose. An example from Slovenia's case, where clear-cut forestry is prohibited, which later on leads to increased share of salvage logging, compared to Latvia or Sweden, where clear-cut forestry is allowed. And also at the EU level, unified understanding of the definitions would be necessary. For example, about clear cuts, because in Latvia or so-called clear cuts with average size of 2 hectares are considered as gaps or openings, but not clear cuts in Bavaria. And to sum this up, there are possible ways to enhance carbon sequestration in European forestry. One of that would be area expansion, as mentioned before. Second would be productivity of existing stands, or maximize carbon storage or sequestration in living tree biomass. Another thing would be preventing carbon loss or increasing the resilience of forest stands to natural disturbances. And the last but not least would be the use of wood products and the substitution of fossil resources. Thank you for your attention.